Hearn location, Orlando to Dallas. Welcome to Sydney, mate. How you feel?
Feeling fantastic. Had a great sleep last night. Had a good day yesterday, especially down the community visit. It was fantastic, and ready to go here in Sydney. Our first ever fight card in Sydney, off the back of the success of Jaya card on the Gold Coast with Tasman fighters, and looking forward to it. I'm really excited about Kambosos against Jake Wyllie. You know, I feel like this has a little bit of the Opataya Naika switch to it, you know, where all of a sudden you've got maybe a more compelling fight for the domestic market, and really looking forward to that fight and the whole card on Saturday. It's a great night.
Can't forget about these two cracking women's world title fights. It doesn't get any
really good. I mean, I think the intrigue around Sky Nichols and Tiara Brown is through the roof. The numbers are huge on that, and also the rematch of Shanika Johnson against Nina Hughes. You know, the first fight was a great fight. Both girls think they won that first fight. Of course, we remember the controversy of the announcer. Never seen anything like that before, but it was a great fight. And I think the two Women's World Championship fights will be thrillers. I really do. And two of the best fights in their respective divisions.
There's been so much talk online, and I'm going to mention another guy now. We've spoken about Richard Hitchens a lot, that George Kambosos potentially faces in New York. Jack Cattrall's another name that's popped up yesterday. There's Shakur Stevens. Massive stakes for George Kambosos.
Yeah, huge. I mean, not just who he might fight next, but his career, probably. I mean, that's the two huge dynamics of where this fight could go when it's all over. George Kambosos fights for the world title against Richardson Hitchens, or George Kambosos retires. But I think we acknowledge that if he loses to Jake Wyllie on Saturday, that's the end of the road for him. And it's not going to be easy. You know, you've got a kid with nothing to lose, and Jake's a very pleasant young man, doesn't seem overawed by anything. He's fighting to a level he's never boxed at before, but George has got to stay switched on.
I want to talk a little bit about a big signing 2 days ago, Alicia Baumgardner. You know, we speak a lot about MVP in this women's boxing. I feel that you've done more for women's boxing in the last 10 years than anyone. You know, I mean, the biggest fights you've done them. Your thoughts on Alicia Baumgardner going over to Jake?
I think it's a great move for her. You know, I think that, you know, her contract was up with us a while ago. You know, we've had great times with Alicia. We think she's a tremendous fighter. Obviously, she's had her ups and downs as well, and you know, I think it's a good move for her career. I think, you know, there's always talk about, you know, Eddie Matchroom aren't invested in women's boxing. We've been consistently invested in women's boxing forever. It just means that we're doing the business we think is right as well, and you know, we continue to invest with a huge stable of women fighters. But you know, every time that there may be women fighters that we represent now that may get an opportunity to fight on an MVP card, and we're open to that. And you know, it doesn't mean they have to. It could be a co-promotion. We could let them go. I just want fighters to get the best opportunities, and if that's with someone else, that's fine. But obviously, our plan is to continue the investment of women's boxing. But also, at some point, you have to look at the commercial, you know, structure of that deal and see if it's right for you and your broadcaster. And if it's not, and there's another opportunity for them elsewhere, then let them do it. And you know, there's other women fighters that we represent, you know, or have first last on, that have received offers or will receive offers. And if we think it's a good offer, we will say to them, we think you should take it. And I think Alicia's deal is great for her. And I think, you know, MVP are a good company. They're investing, but they obviously look now at women's boxing and think that's a little, not even niche, but opportunity for us.
Without,
yeah, and great, fantastic. And you know, I think we need people to continually invest in British boxing, women's boxing, because before it was just us.
That's
what I mean. We were the only people doing it, and there are a few people dipping in and out. But the more people, the more broadcasters, the more platforms that
you guys kind of set it up.
We did, and we don't need, you know, it's like. But it was a good opportunity for us at the time as well. I did it because I believed in the product, and then it worked for our business. So I think one of the problems with women's boxing is the early level of a career is fine, and the sort of echelons of the major fights are fine. It's the in the middle stuff that might not deliver the commercial value. And what I mean by that is a big name against someone that you may never heard of. The money now for those kind of fights, in my opinion, is not really the right money, the right value for those kind of fights. Early on in a career, no problem. Big fights against big name opposition, big money, no problem at all. It's like the middle level fights that don't create the same kind of interest. But you know, I think I saw the Alicia promo with MVP. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And we wish her all the best.
And you know, like you've done a lot of great stuff with her in the past. Big one coming up next week in Las Vegas. Sandy Ryan,
Yeah.
Kayla Martin.
That's a good example of the fights that provide great value commercially. Do you know what I mean? And you know, both girls get paid well for that fight because it's a great fight. It's headlines in Vegas. There's a lot of interest around the fight. The first fight was epic, and you know, we want Sandy to continue in those fights. I've sort of been watching in on Sandy in this training camp. I think she looks like an absolute beast, if I'm honest. I've never seen her prepare like this before. She seems so locked in, but it's a very tough fight. You know, they match up very well. It's very difficult to beat Michaela Meyer because her work rate is very, very good in the fights, and over 2 minutes, you know, sometimes that's enough. So I don't really know what Sandy's got to do or how she's got to, you know, does she box, does she fight, does she do a bit of both? But it's going to be a very tough fight. And you know, in those kind of fights, it's going to be a 6-4 kind of fight. 7-3 max, you know? So, you know, we hope we get the rubber to green, and I believe Sandy Ryan will win next week.
Speaking about Jake and what they're doing the trilogy. You know, Katie Taylor,
Yeah.
Amanda Serrano. Katie Taylor up 2-0. You did the first one with Jake. Obviously, the second one was on Netflix. What do you think of the third one and how it would play out?
Again, the same thing with those two. You know, two legends of the sport, and every fight is going to be 6-4, 7-3 between those two. You know, 5-5. Like, it's just, that's how it's going to play out. No one's going to dominate the fight, I don't think. And I think that fight will be exactly the same as 1 and 2. It'll be another thriller, and you know, it's quite strange to have a trilogy when it's 2-0. But that just shows you the quality of the fights. No one's moaning that there's a trilogy. You know, Katie could be up 3-0 and you could do number 4 because every fight's going to be a fight of the year contender.
I just checked your wallet then. Is there $1 million in there for Ben Shalom and Chris Eubank? Weird.
Yeah, they're very smart. I mean, I say my head went a little bit, but at the presser, Shalom stuck it on me for $100 bet, and I was kind of went back. I went, well, we'll do $1 million, like just to test his, you know, sort of resolve, and he sort of gulped a little bit, and then he pointed out in an interview that we can't bet under the British Boxing Board of Control because we'll have our licence removed.
You've got the email up.
Yeah, but they also, you know, put a notice out not so long ago that you're not allowed to bet, and Eubank knows that, so then he goes and then he calls the bet on. So it's a good twist to the public, but unfortunately I'm not ready to lose my licence yet, but we can do something for charity.